Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One happened today about they keep trying to push Amherst Coffee to do more fair trade, to do some. But, and I got an answer today from a couple of the people there, whatever, it wasn't quite the manager, it was some manager, whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, and sort of one of the other people who work there, it costs, the farmers have to pay to be fair trade. So they say that they say they're fairly traded. They say they buy coffee and they pay fair prices because the farmers can't afford to be in transfer because they have to pay. So what's your answer to that? And what's my answer to them about that?
Okay, good point. Because a lot of people think, you have to start looking again into what is certification with fair trade, how does it work? It works two ways. One is the cooperative has to be certified, which they have to go through pretty rigorous standards. They have to be inspected by an international organization that comes in, make sure they're really doing what they say they're doing. And the cost it's on my website, it's around $2,000 to join. It's not a lot of money, but to them it is. And then there's an annual fee of $600 plus a percentage of their sales.
Wow.
But for Equal Exchange, for example, their symbol's right on that coffee bag back there if you don't know who they are. They're not as prominent around here. They're a Boston-based company, been in business 20 years. They're the ones that provide all the chocolate we had tonight, the tea and the coffee. What they do is when they buy a shipment and they start working with a cooperative, they incorporate that into the first deal with them. So they don't have to give you the $2,000 to flow into transfer. It's already in their first shipment. So if they're buying $50,000 worth of coffee from them, then the $2,000 comes out of that and they pay the bill for that. So really someone like Dean, someone like another good roaster, that's what they would do, is they would buy a huge shipment. Coffee only comes around, I think there's one ripening a year. I mean, this is all year they're working on the plants and keeping the land, but there's one or two actual harvests a year in different parts of the world. So when they get that $50,000, that might be for 700 farmers or something. I mean, I don't know how that's broken up, but they can do that. They can make a commitment to a cooperative and say, we're going to buy all your coffee this year and we'll help you pay your certification fee. So it's really not this insurmountable. And then, yeah, and I invited the owner of Haymarket to come speak. I mean, he's a transfer certified roaster right here in town. You can go in and buy their coffee. I think it's around $7 to $8 a pound.
$9.
Is it $9 now?
$9 a pound.
Well, it's still a good deal. And they pay 7 or 8 cents a pound to tell you to put that stamp on all their bags and on all their materials. So they pay on this end 7 to 8 cents, and the cooperative pays. And that funds transfer, which does all the inspections and deals with all, every time a load of coffee is bought, they have to submit all their financials. I mean, it's very rigorous. It's not just like, oh yeah, I paid. You got to show every piece of documentation from your shipments all the way down to what the cooperatives receive.
So to answer the questions that people at Amherst Coffee, I could say, yeah, the farmers pay, they're not farmers, the cooperative pays, yet a lot of times it's absorbed by the roasters who buy from the farmers in a way.
Well, it's not absorbed, it's actually their money. It's like if you bought from me $50,000 worth of a product, you told me you're going to pay me, then I'll give me $48,000 and you send the check to transfer for me. It's their money.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they're not sort of saying, I'll buy 10,000, you got to pay the 2,500.
Right.
And if they buy enough coffee, then so it's a minimal impact on them.
Right, you need to buy a lot from them. You need to buy at least one harvest. This is a big deal in fair trade too, is, each year they don't know if they're going to sell their coffee, a lot of these people. So Dean, again, I keep going back to Dean because he's a local person, he had a bunch of students go to Peru in January, and I saw a presentation they did, and they're working on the first long-term contracts under fair trade. Under fair trade, they only have to buy for one season, and that's really still not fair in my opinion. So he's now extending that to a 10-year contract with this one cooperative in Peru, which could be broken by either side. It's not binding, he says. He was an international lawyer, so he knows all this stuff. But just the idea that you're not going to leave these people high and dry, that's what Starbucks does. That's what Nestle and Kraft and Sara Lee do. They come in, they buy it once at that auction, that's it. You never see them again. You don't know.
Cutthroat practice.
Exactly.
Well, that way they can, from their point of view, if the price goes down the next year, I mean, if you make a contract, then you're sort of paying the same price each year,
or above.
Whereas if the market should drop, then they can take advantage of it. So they're just playing.
Exactly.
It's like gambling.
It's the commodities market.
They're gambling.
Yeah, which means futures and all that.
Free trade, right?
Yeah, that's free trade versus fair trade. Exactly.
Right. It's about gambling.
And fair trade fluctuates up depending on the C market. So if the C market gets to 141 for some reason, or 121, they then go over that. So it's not like they're not winning on that particular, because they don't want people to leave the fair trade model and say, well, look, I can just go sell it to Nestle, and why deal with all this paperwork and you guys, you know? So they try to always keep it up. Another thing is a lot of these small cooperatives, if you go to my website, there's a link to Cooperative Coffees, are really involved in these communities. They go down and help build the schools. They fundraise for them. They raise this awareness about what's really happening in the coffee growing lands, as it's called, around the world. Oh, sorry.
The difference actually is not free trade and fair trade, it's fair trade and slave trade, really.
Right?
Yes.
Because the corporations act like, what was the old name of the plantation colony?
Right.
They had it's the same thing. They disconnect, just take the labor, just take the profit, and dump humanity, dump the people,
Yes.
and so that's really a more honest.
Yes. Neocolonialism is
Yeah.
what I've heard it called.
Yeah.
And that's really true.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And on Alexandra's website, she's got a lot of these facts and figures and putting out more. In 1985, the world price of coffee was $4.85 a pound, 20 years ago. So all these wonderful villages all throughout Mexico and Nicaragua and Costa Rica, a lot of them are vacant. People no longer have livelihoods. And this is all from the WTO, and the Vietnamese coffee came on, the Brazilian coffee, and it's a race to the bottom where all of a sudden it was 50 cents a pound for Vietnamese coffee.
Right.
And it has nothing to do, and these 125 million people are affected by this. It's second to oil in the amount of revenue, and it's just wiped out millions of people's ability. But what those guys were talking about was that they're 11 cents a kilo. It's the difference between eating and not eating. That's why they were taking down their trees. Well, similarly, another couple of films that Alexander shows that are recent, show this very clearly in South America, that it's an unbelievable thing. And even this fair trade is $1.42. That's a third of what it was. So when you make out this very important point that this is slave, even at $1.42,
What is the average price now?
The average price, I think it's fluctuating between around 75 cents. It goes 90 cents.
Some days it goes to $1.10.
The world price.
Well, what they do is there's these futures. They bid on these futures, and it's a race to the bottom. But just to get it in perspective, like you were saying, even if it doubled and went to $1.50, up a dime above fair trade, it's still a third of what 125 million people were making their living on 20 years ago. I mean, this has been a race to the bottom for these people.
So no one really just wants to call it what it is. It's tokenism. It's not a living.
It's slavery.
It's a couple.
And then the other piece is all that wheat you were seeing. That's the American taxpayer that's
right.
paying these big corporations,
Right.
like Arthur Daniels, to if we're funding them to feed the slaves, and it's all these big corporations doing this thing. And the beauty about this other program that Alexandra has on our website is this direct coffee, where it's they're getting $3 a pound, and they're having their own roasters. And there's 5 cooperatives that are doing that in 5 different countries. And so it's just starting to grow now. The University of Santa Cruz has taken on one cooperative, and that's 10,000 cups a day. I forget how many pounds it is, but it's a lot. So they're going buyer direct, which gets rid of all this New York markets. I just want to add that.
So can I, as a person, say I'd like to buy something from a cooperative? It has to be a store.
You can buy it from this place in Costa Rica. If you put your email down, or if you don't have email, give me your phone number. I'll send you a brochure.
I just got back from Costa Rica. If I'd known that, I'd gone in there and asked them.
Yeah. They can
Well, this is
mail
what
it to
you
you.
can get a
They can actually
subscription.
mail it to you.
Yeah, they mail it to you every month.
And make
Same
more,
price.
make more for the same price, and make
Yeah.
more money, 3 times the money, so they can
Yeah.
put up some schools, so they can get their,
That's interesting.
Last
know,
year,
yeah.
they benefited $30,000 in this one Costa Rican community from this project. So it's really working. You can go visit with them, you can live with them for 10 weeks for like $2,000.
and they're shade grown,
Yeah, shade grown.
organic, I mean,
Yeah,
it's the
they're
whole.
not certified yet, but they definitely are doing what they said. I have a whole film on it.